talk. Mic is hot. Go.
Okay. But would you tell us your name and your occupation and any organization that you're affiliated with?
James Bud Bottoms. Bud is a acronym for James. I'm a sculptor, and I've been a sculptor since I was 55. That's about 30 years ago.
Thinking back to 1969.
May I interrupt? Just a quick question. Let me make one last adjustment.
Okay.
And since Janet's voice is not going to be in the document,
Yes.
asking these questions,
Right.
when you answer a question, begin with the question. If she says,
Oh, really?
what happened in 1969?
Okay.
Your answer is, well, in 1960.
Yeah.
So you
Okay.
return the question because we're not going to have it there.
Okay.
And because I moved you, I need to adjust this.
What's my name? Don't do that, do we?
No, we don't have to.
Okay.
Well, that's.
Okay.
Take it from the top.
I forget.
We'll repeat that. So tell me your name and your occupation
Yeah.
and your affiliation in terms of organizations.
Oh, I'm Bud Bottoms. I'm a sculptor. I've been a sculptor for about 30 years, and I've been connected with a lot of organizations. Probably the one that you want to hear about is GOO, Get Oil Out. But I belong to a lot of organizations like Santa Barbara Beautiful. I was president at one time, and belonged to EDC for a while, Environmental Defense Center, and I was a member of art associations, sculptor associations. So, and I'm a long-time Santa Barbara and probably been here since after World War II. Came here to go to school.
In 1969, how old were you and what was your primary?
In '69,
Uh-huh.
how old was I? I'm 83 now. Let's see, how old am I in '69? How old was I then, arithmetic-wise?
More or less.
More or less. Probably 30-ish. And
Could you start that sentence? In 1969, I was in.
yeah, in 1969, I was in my early 30s, I guess, and I was working for a company called Tempo. Stood for Technical Management Planning Operation, and it was a spin-off from General Electric Company. It was all a spin-off from RAND in Santa Monica, and they moved up here. Well, RAND didn't, but a spin-off called Tempo did. And we studied the future 30 years from now. What was it going to be like? What population is going to be like? What was transportation systems going to be like? What was our trip to the moon going to be like? Space exploration, everything, health in the future. Anybody who wanted our services, we would explore that and say, here's what you can expect in 25 years from now with your resources in your country or your company, and you want to know what's going to happen in 25 years from now. We would plan it as an art director, and I would visualize for those people, because we had about 500 people work for Tempo, and about half were PhDs, so we had everything from mathematicians to physicists to you name it, so we could look from all environments what the future might be for that particular business or that country. So that was a big business for 15, 20 years. I worked there for 23 years.
Do you remember where you were and what you were doing when you first heard about?
Yeah.
And how you first heard about the oil spill?
Yeah, I was working in my office. I could see the platforms from my window. Our offices were about 5 stories. The building we were working in was about 5 stories tall. So I could see the channel from my window. And I had a very close friend who worked for the News Press, the Santa Barbara local paper at that time. And he was an environmentalist type, and so was I. And I had been very disturbed by the oil companies coming here and destroying our beautiful channel with their platforms. It interfered, it looked like barbed wire out there between what we could see. We couldn't see the Channel Islands clear anymore. The platform would interfere with our visual towards the islands. So I hated that. And then they would set off a lot of underwater explosions to see whether testing for depth and so forth, whether they were going to drill. And I just hated that fact. That's not why I came to Santa Barbara. I came to Santa Barbara because it was a beautiful place to live, and I was very protective of it. I wanted the environment to be as good as it could be for my own children and for all children, for the next generation. And so when my friend was flying over from the Channel Islands, he flew across the lineup of the platforms out there, and he saw a big oil blowout going on Platform A, Union's Platform A. And he called me and said, there's a blowout here. He said, there's oil coming up from underneath this platform like crazy. The whole ocean out here is black and it's boiling up. And I was so angry. I just remember screaming out in my office. There was only 3 of us in that office. I said, we got to get oil out. My boss poked his head around the corner and said, I like it. Goo, get oil out. So that's how we start. So what are we going to do about it? Well, the first thing we will do is we'll make a petition to ask the people, do you want to get oil out of Santa Barbara? And we signed this petition. So we printed up a whole bunch of petitions, and we took them out to the public, Xeroxed a whole bunch of copies, sent them overseas. And before long we had, within a few months, we had over 200,000 signatures to get oil out of Santa Barbara. It's amazing. And then we got very radical. We would have, kids would know what they can do. So we'd say, here, send a bottle or a sample of oil on our beaches, send it to every congressman, every senator in the state and in the government. And they did that. We would sign the petition. We had samples of oil going to our representatives. We had people wanting to do something, so we had to open a little office, and they would come there with their poems, their paintings, whatever they could do. One guy wrote a wonderful play that we ran, and we collected money that way. And people would send us all kinds of money to start things with. So we started a thing called, the following year it became the Environmental, I wouldn't call it Environmental Defense Center, that came later. It was called Environmental, it was a downtown organization, I forget what it's called now, but half a dozen of us started that business of trying to protect the environment, making people aware of what was going on our channel. As a matter of fact, there were so many hearings in the city and in the county about oil. We actually had to have people like Norm Sanders from UCSB and other people explain to the city council and explain to the superintendents what ecology meant. Nobody knew what the word meant. We really had to say, here's what ecology, I was getting awareness of the word ecology, how everything is interconnected. You don't mess with anything. It's like the old Indian proverb, whatever they said, you never change Mother Earth until you always think about the 7th generation before you move anything in Mother Earth. So it was, that's how it got started.
Were you involved at all in the cleanup, the actual cleanup?
Hold it just one second.
Yeah.
Hold it 1 second. Is it Community Environmental Council, the group you were thinking of?
Yeah. It was in the Community Environmental
Maybe
Council.
give them
No, what did we call it that? Community Environmental, yeah, Paul Rellis. Paul Rellis started that one. Paul Rellis came to me and said, what can I do? Young guy going to UCSB. He said, what can I do to, help? He says, I have an idea, I want to start something too. And he said, we don't have any money. And I said, well, money's coming in like mad, so here's $100, Okay.
I want to get this.
Okay.
He's
Oh, all right.
adjusting this exquisite sculpture with the most exquisite glaze, but we'll
Oh, okay.
Go.
Okay, so,
What's your go? Start with your question.
Yeah.
I had asked you, were you involved in the actual cleanup?
oh, and the actual cleanup. Well, the best I could to be involved in it. I wanted to be involved in the actual cleanup of the oil, goo. To be involved, there wasn't much as an individual I could do. They did bring a lot of prisoners down the beach with all kinds of trucks full of straw, kitty litter. And they dumped it in the ocean, dumped it in the harbor, and then they'd get out there with pitchforks, and as the oil and particularly soaked up the oil, they would put in there. The way I was involved with it was being radical and having people do guerrilla warfare against the oil companies. So we did a lot of plays, we did a lot of action. I organized a bunch of people to come to the beach one day, bring their mirrors, because we were going to use the sun to reflect the sun onto the oil derricks and burn them out. So, so everybody built a big sand berm, got behind the sand berm with their mirrors, and we shined our mirrors onto the oil derricks. You know, anything I could think of, we would do. We'd march. We had a huge march on the wharf, because the wharf had been leased out to George Cassignola, who owned the restaurant on the wharf, and then he subleased it to the oil companies to run all their rigs and all their drilling sands off the wharf. So it kind of closed the wharf down to public use. We were limited where and we lined up a lot of people. We covered we blocked the wharf from any big trucks coming on that were helping the rigs, and we blocked these big trucks and made them back down off the. There was a couple of hundred people were there. We stopped that. That was one other thing. We were always doing some kind of action to make it tough on the oil companies.
Cut. Two things. This foot is pushing you, so you keep turning.
Okay.
On
Okay.
Just keep facing her.
Yeah.
And I need to take this. We're going to give it a little,
All right.
because you're moving your arm and the microphone is picking up.
All right.
So I'm just going to put a little curl in there, so we don't have that problem.
Okay. Want me to zip that up?
No, it's okay. The way
Okay.
it's not
All
in
right.
it's not in the front.
Okay.
Go.
Within the next couple of years after that, were you involved in the activism that led to the passage of Prop 20?
Prop 20 was, let's see, I'm trying to remember what that one was. Because I became, Prop 20, what was Prop 20?
Prop 20 was what led to its passage led to the creation of the Coastal Act
Yeah.
in California in 1972. Was a statewide initiative.
That was just the state, that we were going to get the oil out of the state lands. Is that the one? Yeah, I was very active in that one. We could. Well, one time, Al Weingarten, who was one of our senators in Santa Barbara, and me, and I don't know who else, we took our hundreds, thousands of petitions to the state when we wanted to go see Reagan. But we had to see the assistant governor, the lieutenant governor. We saw him, we presented the petitions to him. As you can see, these thousands of people don't want oil in Santa Barbara or along the California coast. And I think we had that. I think we had a lot of pressure there on the state to stop that. And sure enough, they did stop that. Proposition 20 did stop the platforms off of the state lands. So yeah, that was very successful. We were happy about that. Matter of fact, up on the mesa is a plaque that GU made up in honor of I guess it was Senator Teague of California, because he gave us a 10-mile strip of land that said you couldn't drill on California lands out there. So he has a plaque up there. You want to check it out, you can photograph it. Oh yeah. My involvement in cleanup was more in guerrilla warfare, plus picking up dozens of birds that were soaked in oil, and a lot of publicity about that.
In a fairly concise statement, how would you say the California oil spill affected your life?
Well, yeah, as an environmentalist and very aware of a future for my children, because I had 4 sons from the time they were very small. I wanted the earth to be their earth, their environment to be as clean as it was for me as a kid. And I could see that with the automobile, with oil, the need for oil, because we got off on the automobile, was going to destruct. It seemed like oil was destroying the entire land. And the exhaust from the cars was making the air hard to breathe. You fly on an airplane, you look down, you see all that smog down there. It was amazing. And it didn't exist when I was a kid in Santa Monica. It wasn't there. We could be on the beach in Malibu or Santa Monica, look back up the San Bernardino Mountains and be as clear as a bell and say, let's go skiing tomorrow. There's snow in the mountains, you know. But in the next few years, with the advent of, they took out the rail cars in Los Angeles and put in freeways. It meant more cars, larger populations, more need for oil, because the oil company said, if you can put it in a can, we can sell it. But if not, like if you want to use natural gas, forget that. Can't get that in a can. But one little side trip, the need for natural gas as opposed to oil, let's say, natural gas is in everybody's backyard. You put a pipe down far enough, you can probably light it and have natural gas. And that's what they did in Summerlin. They used to have baseball games in Summerlin. They just drive a pipe in the ground all around the baseball field and light that's how they lit baseball games in Summerlin.
So what is, in your opinion, today are the greatest threats for the coastline?
The greatest threats are more development of oil, rigs, more rigs out there, more chances for explosions, disasters like we just had in the
Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, the Gulf of Mexico, the GOM, the giant oil monster, the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah, that's the exploitation of the future disasters, whether an oil tanker or any big tanker is going to run into an oil derrick out there. Even, you can't control Mother Nature when it comes to the ocean. We learned that in Japan recently. And man said it's going to be a safe rig or it's going to be a safe nuclear plant. Come on, give me a break. Mother Nature's going to do what she wants to do. She's always done that. And so my greatest fear is that no matter what man made, it's going to be whatever Mother Nature has in her memory, or whatever she wants to do. She's just going to destroy man's whatever.
Let's do that question
Yeah.
again,
Okay.
because you have a lot of important things to say.
Yeah.
Take it right from the top.
Okay.
So, in your opinion, today, what are the greatest threats to the coastline?
The greatest threats are the oil companies. Their need for oil, whether it's a platform or whether it's drilling, they're going to, Mother Nature's going to have her way. It's going to be a big ocean. Tankers coming down here are going to run into the oil derricks, or large waves are going to wreck things for the oil companies. They're going to have man-made errors in drilling. There's no sure way of drilling for oil without accidents, so that's my greatest fear, is that the oil companies are in our need and our want for oil without going to other natural resources like natural gas, and of course solar is number one, because that's why we're all here, with solar systems. So if we had, in the last 150 years, if we had been tapping into solar energy and not going for oil, we'd be in good shape today. But in only 100 and some odd years, we've gone from a pristine Earth, what it should be called the ocean, because we're 7/10 water. We've gone from a beautiful, pristine country, world, globe, into one that's polluted because of the use of oil. And it causes pollution, whether it's the ocean or whether it's the air or whatever, the stuff we depend on, clean water and clean air to survive. We're destroying it because of the use of oil, and that's causing global warming, which is changing our entire environment. It's as simple as that, you know. And population keeps growing and growing and growing, so probably our largest problem is overpopulation, period. If the population wasn't so great, we wouldn't have to produce as many cars and a need for oil and so forth. So it all comes down to more people.
Annoying cough in the middle of an interview. Ruin everything. What advice would you give to school kids, high school kids, who might be seeing this documentary, about how they can be involved, realistically, practically, to help protect the coast?
Yeah. Yeah, for kids from kindergarten to college, I'd say get involved right now, as much as possible, by converting, by not using or looking for another system for transportation. Whether it's roller skates or bicycles or walking, utilize those as much as possible. But try and work and study about the Earth, what the, oh boy,
Let's take a little break. Just
Yeah.
a sec. Let's think about that.
yeah,
You've been invited to speak in front of
yeah,
a class of high school children.
yeah,
It's their environmental studies class.
all right,
You're going to be able to hold their attention for 60 seconds to 100 days, from 1 to 3 minutes.
yeah,
And then they're going to start wandering off on it.
yeah,
And the question is, based on your experience, your years of experience,
yeah.
what advice would you give to these children in order for them to be inspired, to take action on their own, with the next generation of activists?
Yeah,
What would you say to them?
yeah, let me think about that.
Take your time.
I'm not very good about interviews.
Pardon me?
You're wonderful.
I'm not very
You're
good with
wonderful.
interviews.
It's all going very, very well.
It's actually going very, very well.
Yeah.
And you're going to get a second chance anyway, so, yeah.
I get blurred. I'm getting more and more blurred with my thoughts about
That's why we're doing
expressing
exactly
it.
what we're doing, because those memories are going to fade, and we want to make sure they're not lost to the next generation.
Okay. Yeah.
We may make them memorize what you're saying and recite it word for word.
Right. Yeah.
Fourscore.
Foursquare. Yeah.
Our oil company destroyed our beach.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I used to have to memorize all that stuff back in the day.
Yeah, but you don't have to do it anymore. You got a little computer in your hand. It tells you everything.
Well, they don't even teach history anymore.
No, you can,
Kids don't know.
you can click
They don't know
into
what
it.
World War II
Blue
was.
panel.
No, I know.
They don't even know what Vietnam was.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a hard time. Time goes by so fast that we forget all that. We've forgotten. People, they don't even know. You're exactly right. They don't know what World War II was. They don't know what this stands for. V for victory.
Well, there are kids out there that are doing just amazing things.
Yeah.
And, those that are lucky enough to have good schools to go to,
Mhm.
good teachers, and people who are inspirational in their lives.
Yeah.
But they all don't have that, and I think it's going to get worse for some.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
We ready?
Yeah.
so we're gonna do that question again. then
Okay.
one more, and then we're gonna go back through them all again.
All right.
And the reason is that in our brains, as we formulate answers, sometimes by the second time it's smoother.
Better.
We've
Yeah.
already kind of
True.
Run through it once.
Good. Yeah, it's good.
So, what advice would you give to kids right now
Yeah.
about how to protect the California coastline?
Yeah. The California coastline. What advice I'd give to youngsters today about protecting their environment and the California coastline? Well, I would say take a look around you and know that you're here for a short time. You're not here for a long time, because the Earth is millions of years old. But only in the past 150 years or so have we started to create global warming through the use of the automobile and oil and so forth. And we wouldn't survive on this Earth, on this sea, if we didn't have clean air and clean water. And those are two priorities to survive, for man to survive on this Earth. So whatever you can do to protect clean air and clean water, you should get out there and do it. Whether it means using a recyclable bag to shop with, or riding a bike, walking, but know that Mother Earth, and that she is, Mother Earth, is alive. That she is as alive as you and I are. And she is changing, and she will continue to change daily. And she will adjust to whatever's happening. If you have too many cars and too much gas in the air, she will warm up the planet to change that. If you build a nuclear plant and that you can't provide for enough energy for people, you have to find other ways to provide energy. And the best